it's not a WLtoys K989. Actually, yes it is. But it's marketed as an RC Pro Rowdy ETW. And that's because you can actually walk into a hobby shop, Hobbytown USA to be specific, and buy this right off the shelf now. In addition to several other WLtoys rebranded models, which is amazing. I love seeing that. I've said it in a few videos. I've even said it in the last video about the little Kyosho here. Hobby shops carrying these budget brand RCs is going to be huge. And one of the reasons why that's so good is because this car, even though it's a WLtoys really, see, I told you. And you can actually order this car on Banggood and probably pay a little bit less than I did buying this off the shelf at the hobby shop. But here's the advantage. RC Pro has its parts availability domestically to the US and Canada. So if you live in North America and you have one of these cars, you can just order the parts for it from RC Pro and not have to wait weeks or months to get it like you often do on Banggood or ordering from WLtoys directly. And the hobby shop even had some of the parts for this car on hand, and that's the best thing about it. When you buy a car from a hobby shop, you can usually get parts for it at that hobby shop as well. Let's take this little guy for a spin and talk about it because I really like this little car, though it does have its flaws. Let's get into it. The first thing I notice about this little car is that it's fast. Mini Z fast. It really is a snappy little car. But we need some more space because this little car is too fast for the Rec RC garage. I can't believe I'm going to say this about a 28 scale RC car, but we got to slap a GPS on this thing. It looks silly with that GPS stuck to the front of it like that. Let's see how fast it is. Full throttle. We're full out. Hey, 14.6 miles an hour. That doesn't sound fast. But for a car as small as this, that is blistering and legal. That might be the first time we've ever actually stayed under the speed limit at Speed Run Park. Now, I don't know how fast a Kyosho Mini Z is out of the box, but I don't think it's actually quite this fast, though they can be upgraded to go very fast. But so can this. This probably won't handle as well because Mini Zs have gyros and all kinds of cool stuff, and they're really fantastic carpet racers. But I bet a pretty good driver with one of these cars could probably give a Mini Z a run for its money on a carpet track, as long as the turns aren't too tight. But I really do like this little car. It's smooth, it's fast, it's fun, it's cheap. I can get parts for it domestically. Oh, dang it, totally useless off-road. Definitely does not qualify as a rally car. And because we've had this car now for about a week and Johnny Crash Jr. has driven this car every single day almost, I can go ahead and do the 5 upsides and 5 downsides of this car right now. Upside number 1, cheap. It's a super cheap car. I think this car is like $60 or $70 maybe. And for that price, you get a hobby grade RC car, a very small one though, that is upgradable, reasonably fast, handles pretty good, and it accelerates like a housefly. Upside number 2, parts availability. As I said, parts are available for this car domestically, and you can even get many of the parts directly from the hobby shop. So unlike most WLtoys brands cars, even though this is not WLtoys brand, it's RC Pro brand, but it is a K989 WLtoys. There's no way of avoiding that. Not that that's a bad thing, it's actually kind of a good thing. But you can get the parts for it, many of the parts for it, right at the hobby shop where you purchase it at. Though it would probably be better to order the car online, it would be a little bit cheaper that way, and then just buy the parts locally or order them domestically if you want. Rockford. Upside number 3, convenience. This car virtually fits in your pocket. You could break this thing out pretty much anytime you want. I carried it here. Oh, we landed on the wheels. How about that? I carried it here in the parts bag. The radio took up more space than the car. Upside number 4, kid-friendly. Johnny Crash Jr. picked this car out himself. Johnny Crash Jr. is only 5 years old, extremely rough on RC cars. He has no concept of proportional controls or modulation. He's either full throttle, full lock, or not. And he's very rough on RC cars, and this thing has actually stood the test of Johnny Crash Jr. really well. It has not broken yet. It's already been flown down a flight of steps, slammed into several walls, wedged under a few chairs. It's a pretty durable, kid-friendly RC car. Great starter car for a small kid. And the best thing is, if you do buy this for a kid and they decide they don't care about RC cars, well, you're not out much money. It costs about as much as a Nintendo Switch game. Upside number 5, upgradability. This car has been around for a while. The K989 is not a new car by any stretch. Being branded by RC Pro is kind of a recent thing, but the K989's been around a long time. There's tons of upgradability to this car. I've even seen some people turn these things into little speedrun cars, which is mind-boggling because they're just so small. You can even get a little brushless system in there if you can figure out a way to allocate the space inside the chassis. So this little car ticks all the boxes except for size. It's cheap, you can get parts for it, it's kid-friendly, it's super convenient, reliable, and you can upgrade it. Oh, and the battery life's tremendous, even though it's only like an 800 milliamp hour battery. Now time for the downsides. Downside number 1, the size. Obviously, it's a very, very small RC car, which if you're going to use it for indoor or carpet racing or something like that, that's completely fine. But even though the size is convenient and is an upside, it is simultaneously also a downside. It's just a tiny little car, and therefore it's mostly useless in any environment except for indoors, or if you are going to take it outdoors, keep it on a smooth surface like this. And even still, there's no guarantee that you won't get stuck. Downside number 2. Yes, it is Mini Z fast, probably actually faster than a Mini Z out of the box. But it's not a Mini Z. And even though it's much, much cheaper than a Mini Z by $100 or more, it definitely feels cheaper than a Mini Z. It doesn't handle as well. I think a Mini Z would even be a little bit better on this surface than this car is. So this car can kind of be a bit of a novelty that for some could wear off pretty quickly. Personally, I really like it. I enjoy every second I spend driving it, and so does Johnny Crash Jr. But hobbyists who consider themselves a bit more serious, if that's even a thing in this hobby, probably would overlook this car or disregard it entirely. So yes, the car, I admit, can be a bit of a novelty. When you drive it, it kind of just makes you want a Mini Z or just makes you want a bigger, faster car. But it's really just a great car the way it is. Though, yes, bit of a novelty, bit of a downside. Downside number 3, the suspension. Now, I understand that getting oil shocks that small, well, it might actually be impossible. I don't think I've ever seen them that small, though I could be wrong. So the car is very, very, very stiff and bouncy, and you've already seen it traction roll a few times. It'll just spring right into the air out of nowhere. So while it does handle well, it's a super bumpy little ride. But that's common for small budget RC cars. It's when they're this little, you're gonna get crap suspension. It just kind of comes with the territory. Because the car is very, very small, so too are its parts. So if you're working on this car and you lose one of those tiny little body pins, you may never see it again. Also, if you lose one of these tiny little wheel nuts, those disappear like magic. We might only do 3 downsides because I can't really think of that many for this car. It's not because the car is an amazing RC car, it's just because there's not really much to say about it. Not that that's a bad thing, it's a really great little RC car. I really enjoy it. Johnny Crash Jr. absolutely loves it. And it really, really is a great kid-friendly RC car. Reasonably fast. It'd be a great little carpet racer. It is a really good drift car on a smooth surface. And even though you can get parts for this car, I don't know how motivated one would be. I could see somebody breaking something and then saying, do I really want to even invest the few dollars and the few minutes, or could I just pitch this in the bin and get another car? I can see that happening. Personally, I wouldn't do that, but there are people that would. Yes, I would recommend this car. Perfect for kids, perfect indoor RC car. If you have some friends, you get a couple of these cars. They're super duper cheap. You can have an absolute blast racing around indoors with these things. And if you want a Mini Z, but they're a little bit out of your price range, which I can understand, especially in these times, this car would be a great alternative. Out of the box, this is actually a little bit faster than a Mini Z. Doesn't handle quite as well, but for what it is, it's completely fine. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Remember, it's not about miles per hour. It's about smiles per mile, so have fun. And we'll see you in the next one.